Welcome. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy work and life to come along to today's workshop. My name is Jack Clayfield. I'm the founder of Graduate Hero. And today we'll be covering the topic, how to find a graduate job in 90 days without applying online. I'm really excited to share this information with you. It's taken me a long time to gather, and it's information I wish I had when I graduated. My goal for today's workshop is to give you as much value as humanly possible and share with you what I think some of the biggest key insights and strategies are to quickly launching your graduate career. Some of the topics we're going to be covering today include how to access 85% of graduate jobs that are not advertised, how to remove competition and a formal interview from the job search process, how to find businesses that don't require permanent residency or citizenship, a proven employer communication and follow-up system to get businesses to get back to you, and of course some successful case studies of graduates that have used our system and training to launch their professional careers. So as I'm speaking, if you've got any questions, or you feel free to make any notes, and please send me any questions or queries you have at the end of today's workshop. Before we move on, just want to congratulate you personally for taking some time to learn some new information and some strategies. It's very, very rare, and so few do it. So well done. Give yourself a little pat on the back, and congratulations for coming along to today. If you're feeling confused, angry, a little bit hopeless about applying for jobs online, tired of seeing job ads that asking for 2 to 5 years of experience, asking for permanent residency, maybe you're feeling overlooked because of a permanent residency or a visa, or maybe you're just like me when I graduated, just generally confused and overwhelmed about all the options and the next steps to take, you're in the right place. What I'm going to share with you over the next 20, 25 odd minutes, I sincerely believe will be a turning point for you in not just for your graduate career, but how you look and build your future career long after your first job. In a room this size, or a webinar this size, I'm sure we've got lots of different groups, all at different stages of work or study. On screen are the major groups or segments we love to work with. And you might be in any one of these 3 categories. First, we've got international students. If that's you, maybe you're studying or looking to complete an internship or some part-time or casual work while you're still studying. A really, really smart idea. Second big group is our graduate visa holders who are looking for their first paid professional role or paid internship, either towards the end of their degree, or maybe you've recently graduated, you've been struggling to find work online, and you're looking for that first professional experience. And the third group we love to work with, if this is you, maybe you're a skilled migrant, you've come over here with a partner, or a husband or a wife, and you're looking to restart your professional career in Australia. If you fit into any of these 3 groups, or even if you fit outside these groups, you're in the right place, and the information and system I'm going to share with you today will be relevant for you. According to the New Work Order report, which was a report released by the Foundation for Young Australians, which studied 15,000 university and tertiary leavers in Australia, the average graduate currently takes 2.4 years to find paid part-time work in their profession, and up to 4.7 years to find full-time paid work in the profession. This is far too long. I really feel if you, like me, have studied for 15 years of your life, education, study, and further training, you deserve a clear, proven path into a paid job in your profession without having to jump through all the hoops, without the competition, and without having to worry about perfecting your resume and your interview skills. If you think it's not possible, I'm here to tell you that it is. If you've ever applied for a job online, or if you're like some of my students, maybe you've applied for 50, 100, maybe even 1,000, you might have experienced some of the following doubts and emotions. Some of the most common emotions, feelings, and doubts my students have shared with me in the past are things like, Jack, I feel like I don't have enough experience. I'm confused and upset why employers are not getting back to me when I'm applying. I'm finding it really difficult to stay positive and motivated during the job search process. I'm worried about my visa and staying in the country. And I'm just generally feeling unsure, unconfident about the right next steps for me. But what if I told you all of these feelings, doubts, and emotions were based on an outdated strategy that you've been told on how to find a job and launch your professional career? You see, one of the biggest challenges at the moment starting your professional career is the sheer amount of jobs that have been created. From 20 main jobs or occupations just 50 years ago, there are now more than 1,000 individual job roles, growing by 100 to 200 new jobs every year. That's a lot of information. That's a lot of jobs to sort through to find your ideal career employment path. So get your pens ready, because what I'm going to share with you now in the next slide is probably going to be the biggest takeaway or the biggest piece of information I can share with you from today's workshop. I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase, the better quality of the data, the better quality of the decision making. The ABS is a government organisation that collects data on how we live and we work. The table below looks at the total number of businesses in Australia, broken down into three main categories: large, medium, small, and assigns a percentage against each. Let's start at the bottom, where we can see 2.1 million businesses total. Next up, we've got large employers employing 200 staff or more that make up 0.2% of all of the employers in Australia. There's about 3,500 of these businesses. Medium employers, next up the table, 20 staff up to 199 staff. There's 50,000 of these businesses, and they employ 2.4% or make up 2.4% of all of the businesses in Australia. And lastly, we've got small businesses employing up to 20 staff. There's 97.4% of all of the businesses in Australia, or 2 million out of the 2.1 million businesses fit in this category. I'm not sure if this data is surprising to you. The first time I looked at it, it was really surprising to me. But next, let's look at how these three different employers and groups do their hiring. On screen, you'll see an iceberg. This iceberg represents the entire job market. You've got two sections, pretty simple. What you see above the surface, advertised jobs, and what you see below the surface, or you can't see below the surface, jobs that aren't advertised. Starting with what's above, we've got advertised jobs that you'd find on websites such as Seek, Jora, Indeed, LinkedIn, and others. If you think back to the previous slide, here you're looking at the top 3% of employers typically. This section only makes up 15% of all of the jobs, and yet has 99% of the graduate job seekers or your competition. The profile of these businesses, medium and large businesses, they have larger teams that need to remain streamlined and efficient. So they've often got HR or hiring policies in place that are not typically graduate friendly. And they also have the budget and the resources to run long and expensive recruitment and hiring campaigns to find the perfect candidate, if such a candidate actually exists. For those of you that have ever dealt with a recruiter, recruiters typically only look after these large 3% of businesses as well. So if you've not got a good response from them, this would typically be why. Let's look below the surface now, and in contrast, we've got what we call the hidden job market, or the jobs that are not advertised. Here we've got 97.5% of employers, 85% of all the jobs, and the best part, or the best news, only 1% of job seekers or your competition. Where large businesses have restrictive hiring practices for graduates, small businesses are willing to invest, teach, and train you and upskill you to be the ideal employee. And that's why I like to recommend the hidden job market as an additional strategy for applying online. I'm no mathematician, but once I understood this data, it changed everything for me. And I realized that the majority of challenges my students and graduates were facing in launching their professional careers weren't because there weren't enough jobs. It was because they'd built their entire strategy around competing with 99% of the job seekers for 15% of the jobs with only 3% of the businesses. I want you to let that sink in for a minute. Quick question for you. Are you learning something new? Are you getting something valuable out of today? Or maybe like me, is this data quite surprising to it if you're hearing it for the first time? So how did we figure this out? My own journey to launching my professional career was a long and painful one, 6 years to be precise. And once I did land my professional career, I thought there was a great opportunity to go back and work with universities and tertiary education to help them gain industry experience during their studies, and then therefore try and shorten the gap from graduation to paid employment. So in 2012, I launched Industry Placements Australia, and we were fortunate to work with major universities across the country to help more than 10,000 students into internships in the final year of their studies. More than 10 years on, however, I kept in touch with many of my students, and despite them all having 3 months of local experience, they were all facing 3 big challenges in launching their paid professional careers. The first big challenge that I kept hearing over and over again was, Jack, none of the employers are getting back to me. Second big reason was, Jack, they're telling me I don't have enough experience, or for the students that had experience overseas, I didn't have enough local experience in Australia. The third big reason was around permanent residency as well. Realizing that all of the challenges that my students and graduates were facing were identical, I realized the real problem that I needed to focus on, or we needed to focus on, was finding paid employment, either a paid internship or a paid graduate role. And that's when I realized there was an opportunity to teach the same process I'd used with the universities to place those 10,000 students, and teach that same system to equip and allow students and graduates to have a simple step-by-step system that they could reach out to employers and source their own paid internships or paid graduate positions. Currently, the graduate fast-track system is the only proven step-by-step system that's dedicated specifically to students and graduates, helping them land their first paid professional role in 90 days without having to rely on job boards to do this. It's built around a simple 5-step process and includes all of the tools, templates, checklists, cheat sheets, and weekly live coaching and group mentoring for support. Let's have a bit of a look at what that 5-step system is and how you can use this same 5-step system in 90 days to launch your professional career. When we think about jobs, it's easy to overcomplicate and often get quite emotional about launching our professional careers. But stripped back at a basic level, a job is simply an exchange of services. You as an employee providing your time and skill in exchange for that employer giving you a salary. There are 2 mindsets that I want you to have a think about when you're applying for work. The first one is what most people do, which we're all probably guilty of, and this is what I call the click, apply, and pray method. Okay. Typically associated with online job applications. The second, and my personal preference, is to think about that employers are just people that have problems that need to be solved. So instead of asking for a job, what about presenting yourself as a solution to the needs, the challenges that business is having? Now you've got this new mindset, you can start to think about understanding the needs and the challenges of that business. And this is where we look at step one, the most crucial and the foundation to the 5-step process, your career profile. The big thing to think about here is, given you've got 1,000 different options for your career these days, we want to try and narrow down the options to 1 or 2 types of businesses that you'd like to focus on for your paid internship or graduate role. Please write this down. To figure out what type of business you want to work for and narrow it down, the question you need to ask yourself is, what is the product or the service the ideal employer or my ideal employer provides to the market being consumers or business. I'll repeat that again for you. To figure out your career profile and the type of business that you want to work for, you need to find out, what does the business do for work? Are they a service provider? Do they produce something? And are they providing that to the consumer market or other businesses as well? Now that you have this information, you can use the keywords of that business type to go into job boards and research. I would recommend 10 or 20 job ads. And what you want to make a note of specifically is the roles and responsibilities, which is the day-to-day running, or what your job would look like if you had that as a job profile. Once you've looked through 20 or 30, you're looking for trends or patterns and trying to identify the top 5 roles and responsibilities that, if you're working for this type of business, that you could provide to the employer as a solution to their needs and their challenges. With this new information, you've now got the confidence to sit down with an employer and say they're asking for a job. You can now present yourself as a solution and providing those 5 or 6 day-to-day roles and responsibilities as the value that you can provide to that business. That's step 1. Step 2, now you have this career profile. I want you to think about building a list of 40 businesses that you can research. Find something that you like about these businesses, whether it's their service, maybe they've been in business for a long time, or they've got a great list of clients. You want to make sure that these businesses fit in that 97% category, employing less than 20 staff. And of course, make sure that these businesses match your professional career or your area of study. Write this down, please. The most important thing to think about here in your list is making sure you build a list of people that can make a hiring decision about you. That means they can employ you. So this isn't typically human resource managers. It's typically your owners, your senior managers, or your C-suite. Now you have a list of 40 specific businesses that you've researched. You can use online directories such as Google, Yellow Pages, Facebook, job boards, LinkedIn to build this list as well, if you're wondering, Jack, how do I find these businesses? But you're looking at online directories for businesses as well. So with step 2 complete, you've got your list of businesses ready. It's all in a database. We want to move on to step 3. This is your graduate career pitch. This is where we draw upon the research that you did, those 20 or 30 job ads that you've looked through, those 5 or 6 top roles and responsibilities, and we craft a 10-second pitch that you can mention to a director or a decision maker at one of those organizations. And if you've pitched it in the right way, this employer will want to get to know more information about you. This is also a great time to update your resume to reflect the specific business type and your LinkedIn profile to reflect the specific business type that you've chosen back in step 1, your career profile. Step 4, and this is one of my favorite areas, this is where it gets really exciting, and you can take your new career profile, you can take your database, and you can take your graduate career pitch and start to build relationships with decision makers with a proven communication and follow-up strategy. What's good to mention here is that we hire who we know, who we like, and who we trust. So the most important thing to think about with communication is building up a relationship. The easiest way to do this is through communication mediums that include things like LinkedIn, email, telephone call, and of course, face-to-face meetings. The big thing to think about here is it takes on average 3 to 5 communication or touch points with a decision maker at a business to get them to develop that relationship and agree to meet with you in person. To track and manage that in a professional manner, you want to think about having a spreadsheet to track that, because you've got, say, 40 businesses and you need to reach out to them 3 to 5 times. It's also worth thinking about pre-writing out these 3 to 5 touch points so that you can copy and paste them to those businesses and have a little bit of automation in that communication and follow-up. You can also use scheduling and email to help you with that process. The final step, or step 5, is the coffee, or what I like to call the informal interview. So by now you're continuing to communicate and build relationships with your businesses from your database in step 2. While you're doing this, you want to prepare for the final stage, and that's the coffee meeting or the interview. I know for many of my students and graduates, and maybe you're the same, there's a lot of stress and anxiety around interviews and formal interviews. The great news is, if you're accessing the hidden job market, given that most of these employers aren't advertising, you're likely to get a job or an internship offer over a cup of coffee, and that's why I've put coffee up there. Businesses much prefer to hire people over an informal interview or a cup of coffee, and this is certainly one of the benefits to using the hidden job market rather than applying for businesses online. A few big things to think about in this step as you're preparing for your informal interview or your coffee is expect that only 10% of the businesses on your list from step 2 will be interested, or it will be the right time for them to meet you. The other big thing to think about is, remember, we only hire who we know, we like, and we trust. So rather than worrying about employment and paid employment, which is the end step, I want you to focus on coffee and relationship building. If you can do that, the job will come as a happy accident, or as a result of focusing on that relationship and focusing on meeting people for a cup of coffee. The goal for you is to convert 10% of your database to a cup of coffee, and that's it. If you stuck to this plan, at this stage you would be at approximately 5 weeks, which gives you, if you're following a 90-day program, which we recommend, this gives you another 7 weeks to continue to communicate and follow up with these businesses and try and lock in that coffee with 10% of the employers on your database. Has this 5-step process given you a little bit of clarity? Maybe it's giving you a bit more of a process to follow. Again, this doesn't necessarily replace online job applications, but it's a great alternative strategy to run in addition to your online job application. Next, we're going to move on and look at some success stories of graduates that have used the graduate fast track system to launch their professional careers. There's many case studies that stand out, and obviously we can't share them all, but I'd love to start with Samira. When I met him, he was a graduate of Central Queensland University, had 7 years of government experience in construction in the infrastructure and government sector in Sri Lanka. His dream was also to work on the Metro Tunnel with John Holland, but 6 months after graduation, he hadn't even landed a single job interview. Joining Graduate Hero and the Graduate Fast Track, within 3 months, he'd landed a engineering consulting job. He had a 2-person business in Ballarat on a 12-month contract for $55,000 per year. And 18 months after that contract, he had 3 job offers in 2 weeks, including from his dream employer, John Holland, on the Metro Tunnel, had tripled his salary and was working for a company that had more than 400 staff. Ali is another story. When I met her, she was a new mum to a young son and had followed her husband here on a PhD to Australia, despite having her own promising career in construction in India. Despite an 18-month career break, no work experience in construction in Australia, she was able to use the graduate fast track system to land an internship with a small construction firm in Adelaide, and then leverage that internship into a full-time construction and project administration role even before her husband landed a job. A great story. And last, Boopel. When I met Boopel, he'd been graduated and was living in Tasmania regionally for 2 years trying to start his electrical engineering professional career. Tassie is one of the toughest graduate job markets in Australia and gets on average 400 to 600 applications per role. But just 38 days from joining the program, Boopel had landed his first job in the renewable energy sector and went on to have further 4 interviews and 2 job offers. The great thing about Boopel is he didn't have any experience back home in his home country of Nepal or in Australia. So if you're in a situation where you've graduated and you don't have any experience in your industry back home or in Australia, Boopel is a great story, a great case study for you. If you're interested in more case studies, there's lots more video case studies on our website. Launching your graduate career can be one of the toughest and most challenging times you face in your early life. There is an abundance of information and strategies online, but if you're like me and most students, it's difficult to go through all this information and figure out what the right strategy is for you. A recap from today and 3 of the biggest takeaways that I think could help you launch your professional career in the next 90 days. Number 1, understand the job market and the data behind it, and build and use a strategy that can put the odds or the statistics in your favor. So think here outside just online job applications. Number 2, adopt a mindset that you're not looking for a job, you're looking to solve or be a solution to a business's needs and challenges. And you can only do that when you understand what those needs and challenges are. And the third big one is add an additional strategy to your job search or your internship strategy. As an example, the 5-step graduate fast track system to access the hidden job market where you've got 97% of the employers, 85% of the jobs, and only 1% of the competition. Finally, I'd just like to say thank you so much for coming along today. I sincerely hope you've had a few takeaways, maybe some mindset shifts, and you've got some new strategies you can walk away with and implement straight away to find a paid internship or a graduate job in the next 90 days. I honestly believe starting your graduate career doesn't need to be stressful, difficult, and isolating, and that there are enough jobs for you exactly as you are, without the perfect resume, without the perfect interview questions and answers, and obviously without having to complete further studies. If you would like some further information, please encourage you to visit our website, graduate-hero.com. And if you're looking for a little bit more of a personalized one-on-one plan, I welcome you to, again, visit our website and book in, or scan the QR code and book in a free 30-minute graduate job strategy session where we can jump into your goals and put together a personalized plan, especially for you. See you there.